He is perhaps best known as the father of the GST, Canada's Goods and Services Tax, and as one of the key negotiators of the original 1988 Canada-US Free Trade Agreement and later NAFTA. But a new book shows there was much more to the late Michael Wilson than those top-line achievements. Something Within Me, a personal and political memoir, is that book. And joining me now is co-author John Lawrence Reynolds. While Michael Wilson will always be remembered for his time in the Mulroney government, of course, it's his work as a mental health advocate that was perhaps the most meaningful to him. And of course, that came into much sharper focus after the suicide of his oldest son, Cameron, at the age of 29. How did you think this changed him?
Oh, it changed him when he realized that Cameron's suicide was motivated not directly by his mental illness, but by the stigma that Cameron felt that he would suffer in the eyes of his friends and colleagues and business associates and so on, because that's the kind of thing we generally as a society, the stance we take in the face of mental illness. Now, if you break your arm, people are going to express a good deal of sympathy for you and want to know all about it. If you're being treated for severe depression or one of a dozen other mental illnesses suffered by, depending on who you talk to, as many as 50% of the Canadian population during their lives, there is a withdrawing, a sense that I'd rather not deal with that. I'd rather not have anything to do with it. Brian recognized that at the service for his son, Cameron. He recognized that people did not know what he was going through. He recognized that Cameron sought very hard, very terrifically to keep this a secret from his friends. And that essentially just added to the depression and contributed to his death. He took a step forward to say, we have to talk about these things. We can't keep this hidden. And this was a bit of an impetus to Bell Canada's very successful program, Let's Talk, all dealing with mental health issues. There's something I do want to mention as well, a sidelight, one of these things that brings the point home very well. Michael told me that due to his activities and mental health and bringing that to the forefront of people's attention, he visited a number of mental health hospitals and discovered that none of them had a gift shop. One of the things you can recognize in any hospital, normal, if you want to call it that, hospital, the hospitals depend a good deal on the gift shops for visitors to buy gifts and take them up to the patients they're visiting. There are no gift shops in mental hospitals because no one wants to visit them. Keep that in mind.
I want to read something from the book here. It's a great quote, and it probably encapsulates the man more than anything. My efforts to raise both money and awareness where mental illness was concerned became of the utmost importance to me. Some suggested these efforts were more significant than any other accomplishment in my life. Would you agree with that?
He certainly felt that way. Politics has its ins and outs, its ups and downs, its black and white and so on. But when you can make the kind of impact that he made on mental illness on behalf of those suffering from it, on behalf of the organizations trying to deal with that, I think that's something to be extremely proud of, something that, and he was not a guy to wave flags and shout and say, look at me at all. He was quite the opposite of that. But inside, he knew what he had achieved, and it affects everyone involved in mental illness treatment in Canada to this day. There's a line in there that I especially like when he said that he spoke to the mourners at his son's funeral, and they responded in a manner that really surprised him by saying, if only we had known. And he recognized we have to talk about these things. And he said, I had pushed on a door waiting to be opened. He opened that door, and then I think it's made a terrific impact on mental health treatment here in Canada.
How do you think Michael Wilson should be remembered?
As a damn good guy. As somebody, we were laughing and chatting and trading stories almost from the moment we began talking about the book. One small point came to mind, which is that we both spent our early childhood in Hamilton. And matter of fact, we both went to the same public school. He was a few years ahead of me, of course. And unless you're familiar with the city, one of the aspects of people in Hamilton tends to be that we're not too highfalutin. We're pretty down and down to earth. You do that kind of thing when your primary industry is making steel. But aside from that, I think we had this "let's just get it done" attitude that we fed each other. And every session I had with them was rewarding and it was enjoyable. And I can't say that about all the books I've done for everyone else.
And finally, John, what do you hope readers get out of this book?
I hope they get out the sense that Canadian politics everywhere, but especially in North America and specifically in Canada, we need people who have principle and stand by their principles and whose obvious intention in getting into politics is to make a positive impact on as many people as they can. This sounds awfully idealistic, perhaps. I'm not certain Michael Wilson's idealistic, but he certainly had a good reason for getting into politics. And it wasn't all personal at all. He wanted to make a difference. If you take a look at all the other things he had done in his life in terms of public service, politics was just one of many activities he was involved in. I think instead of delving into the worst aspects of populism, and I won't mention any names here, I don't have to, I don't think, as long as we say, look, let's deal with each other on a gentlemanly basis, if I can use that term, and get something done so we're both satisfied with the outcome, is a much better way of dealing with politics. We're missing too much of that today.
The name of the book is Something Within Me, a personal and political memoir by Michael Wilson and John Lawrence Reynolds. My thanks to co-author John Lawrence Reynolds.
Thank you, John.